Welcome to the Raiders Training Camp Podcast, presented by SiriusXM. Live from the Intermountain Healthcare Performance Center, here are your hosts, Jesse Merrick and Eddie Paskal.
And here we are, episode 2, Jesse Merrick of the Raiders Training Camp Podcast, presented by the good people at SiriusXM. How are you, my friend?
Man, I'm doing well. You know, we're a couple days deep into training camp. You know, finally able to watch some football. It feels like it's been so long.
I know, dude, and the beauty of it is, and we'll talk about this, the team is ramping up. Things are definitely kind of progressing. 2 pads, which will start next week, and that's a day we all have circled on our calendar. But before we get into the X's and O's of it all, and our conversation with Anthony Averett, who was really, really good, excited to catch up with him, I got to start off the top here, man. One of our guys in the control room sent me a comment, and I'm a firm don't read the comments guy. Don't believe in it. But he sent this one to me. And this gentleman said, hey, man, you guys, it's a nice show. We appreciate what you guys are doing. But, big but, Eddie has a red pen. So to that man, here you are. Can we get this?
Blue. We
blue
both
pen.
got the blues.
Blue pen, all right? Can we progress? But speaking of progressing, I feel like over the past couple of days, since the last time we spoke, things definitely gearing up for this over in black. Josh McDaniels, to his credit, told us earlier in the week, he goes, the first couple of days, we're really going to kind of be easing into things. But it feels like something has kind of clicked over the past 2 practices, doesn't it?
It definitely has. We're seeing a lot more of those, competitive type situations. He even said it, before the first day that you're not going to see, good on good type of thing. And we didn't. And now we have the last 2 days, more 7-on-7, more team. It's less of the working on the fundamentals, which they're still doing, but seeing more of the good competition, that you look for to really get a gauge on where these guys are at.
And I think for me, and we'll get into kind of everything over the past couple of days, but for me, I think as kind of a cliche as it is, I feel like you're just seeing what we expected to see, right? Davante Adams is a beast. Darren Waller is a physical specimen. Jakob Johnson is essentially the Hulk 2.0.
Yeah.
But you're kind of seeing these boxes. You're checking these boxes, and we are really getting to where we need to be. And I mean this in the best way. Not a ton of surprises, but that's a good thing.
I would agree with that. That's the thing is sometimes you do want those surprises on certain teams, and I think this is one of the ones where you don't necessarily want those, at least early on in camp. Guys will obviously emerge as we continue to really put the pads on and see real football. But right now, you just want the guys like your top dogs to look like top dogs, and that's what they've looked like thus far. But like you mentioned, Jakob Johnson, massive guy. You and I were talking about it on the field. When he puts the pads on, he's going to look like 10 times bigger.
And we were talking about this too. Is he going to go? You said in New England he does the neck roll,
yeah,
right?
I'm pretty sure he had the neck roll in there. I hope I'm not wrong, because him with the neck roll is just going to be like, wow.
I'll get our research department on that. But it is funny to think though, where we were talking about Jakob and he's got the old school elbow guard.
Yeah.
This dude is going to look, and in the best possible way, like a fullback out of 1987.
He really is. And it was cool today, actually, in the media room. It looked like we had some media from Germany here talking with us.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That's a big deal for a German guy to be out here playing in the NFL like that. So for them, that's a cool moment. And I just thought it was interesting to see that. So they're going to be watching him. And I'm also going to be watching him when the pads come on, because Josh said he doesn't think there's anybody else on this team more excited than him.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what you want to hear from you, or you want to hear about your fullback,
100%.
right? If you want that big bruising, he's ready to hit someone, I want to clear some lanes. And we were talking about it on the field the other day, though, I'm excited to see, and I don't know if we're going to see it a ton, but I imagine there's got to be a wrinkle where we get some Jakob Johnson out of the backfield a little bit too. Just when you're an athlete like that, they're going to find a way to get the ball in your hands.
Heck yeah. I mean, look, let's see what he does when he's got the rock in his hands. I don't know if there's going to be a hurdle in the
Get a big man in motion, right?
Yeah, right? But, I mean, he could definitely run through somebody. That's where I think when the pads come on, I'm curious to see, how much he lowers that shoulder. Again, same team, not trying to hurt anybody or anything like that. But, he's a guy, I'd imagine there's going to be something in that playbook to get him involved. Because, look, it's something that nobody's expecting. You look at the weapons on this offense, you're not thinking Jakob Johnson. But then they're gonna throw it to him from time to time, and I'll be really curious to see how the defense does adapt to it.
We were talking about kind of guys that are just checking the boxes in the best possible way. Hunter Renfrow looks fantastic, right? Darren Waller looks great. Davante looks great. Max and Chandler running around in not even shells really look like they're supposed to.
Yeah.
But a couple guys that you and I are talking about over the past couple of days that have kind of surprised us. Two wide receivers. I think DJ Turner has had a really nice kind of back-to-back days, and then Keelan Cole too today. I mean, that guy was everywhere.
Yeah, Keelan Cole was all over the place. Another guy that's really stood out to me is Tyron Johnson. He's a guy that I forgot he was on the team last year. No offense to the guy, but I didn't realize he had played those 5 games. Mostly special teamer and whatnot, but. He's a guy that has impressed, and I'm not the only one. Talking to some other media members, they've also noticed him as well. Looks fast. You and I were talking. I told you he kind of gives me Zay Jones vibes. He's a guy that I'm real curious to see how his game translates once they put the pads on. It doesn't change a ton for the receivers, but he's another guy that's like stood out for sure. Keelan Cole, again, like you noted, all over the place. I mean, had tons of grabs. If you were a fantasy manager, you would have wanted him today because he was all over the place.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting, and we talk about kind of just those three guys, or Johnson, Turner, and Cole, is that we have there's positions to be won in kind of the depth pieces in that wide receiver room. And I think when you look at the three of those guys, they all kind of bring a different skill set to the table.
Yeah.
And so I think it'll be really interesting as we get through camp and really ultimately through the preseason, kind of just to see what Josh and Dave Ziegler value in that, call it your fifth wide receiver, right? Your fourth wide receiver. And I think that all those guys are going to get a fair shake at kind of showing what they have and making this team.
I'd imagine so. And in that battle of the grouping the guys we just talked to, I think DJ Turner is an interesting one to keep an eye on. You know, he's a guy you and I have both liked since he's gotten here, but his versatility, I know that's a real big buzzword with this coaching staff, but his versatility and what he's able to do in the special teams game. You know, he's on a lot of different groups in special teams and also as a returner as well. And today, I mean, shoot, we saw him, you know, show the bunnies a little bit. You know, he mossed somebody when they were out there in 7-on-7 too. I was impressed to see that. You know, so he's a guy that I think brings a lot of interesting tools to the table, but also, again, versatility. The more you can do for this team, you know, the better that's going to help your case. And I think that's where he kind of comes in.
And I think it's one of those deals, too, where, all these guys have had a really nice, call it back-to-back days. Like, let's see where we're at in 3 weeks, right? I mean, and it's the harsh reality of this league, the harsh reality of this game is like, you could flash that first week of camp, and then where'd you go? Yeah. We saw you Monday and Tuesday. I haven't seen you in 10 days. So I think with these guys, especially we're talking about those depth pieces in the wide receiver room, consistency and seeing it at practice every single day. And I don't think anyone has the expectation that all these dudes are going to be 10 out of 10 every single day at practice. But we talk about it when we were doing our kind of preview is like, are you a guy that I'm writing my number down your number down in my notebook every day?
Yeah, I mean, we're at that point in camp, and you and I have talked about this, where, you know, we're still looking at the roster like, hey, who's this number, who's that number? But if you find yourself going back to the same number and over again, or, you know, with DJ, we don't have to do that because we remember the guy there. But, you know, if you find yourself looking at the same guy over and over again, that's that buzzword, that ding, 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 like, hey, this guy's been flashing thus far. Keep an eye on him. So there's been a handful of guys that have done that. One guy that we all know who he is, for me, Trayvon Merrick, has looked really good in coverage as well, you know, a couple times. He had an interception, I believe it was today, was it? Some of the days are already starting.
I know, we're already doing what day is it, what year is it? Yeah.
But, no, he had one today, but he's looked really solid in coverage, you know, whether it's against backs, tight ends, you name it. I've liked what I've seen from him thus far.
You know, and sticking on the defensive side on numbers that I've written down, I wrote down 58 a handful of times over the past couple of days. Darian Butler, undrafted linebacker from Arizona State. And, you know, he had an interception yesterday, very active around the ball. And he's a guy that, and we talk about, can you do it consistently? But when we get to not the regular season, when we get to the preseason, like, this is a dude who's going to get a chance to show what he can do when the bullets are flying.
Yeah, I'd imagine he's a guy that's going to get a lot of snaps, you know. And that's the thing, too, is I think with those depth pieces, you know, you're going to be looking at these guys that are good in coverage, and he has shown that thus far, you know. That's the one guy that I have found myself multiple times, you know, I'm finally starting to remember his name and who he is. So I don't have to keep looking down at the roster. But, you know, he's made some good plays thus far. I'm real curious to see, again, once the pads do come on, see how things change for him if he's able to keep that same trend, you know, going forward.
And feels a little undersized at 5'10", 220, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, I'm not a huge, like, specs guy or, like, height, weight kind of guy. Like, if you're a good football player, like, you're going to figure out a way to make plays. Now, obviously, are you going to be an all-pro, five-time Pro Bowler? Who knows? But, like, there's always a position on these teams. There's always a role for dudes who are just good football players.
Yeah, and look, for me, at linebacker, like, you don't need to necessarily be some dude that's, like, 6'3", 6'4", 6'5". You know, leverage is a big thing for a linebacker. You know, being smaller is going to help you get better leverage on some guys. And if he's got some explosiveness in his legs, which we'll be able to see, you know, once they put the pads on, able to run through that contact, that's where I'm going to kind of be watching him to see maybe how that height, you know, helps him out with the leverage game. Yeah,
and I, like I said, just a dude that I think we all need to kind of collectively keep our eye on, right? We're not going to anoint anyone anything as we record this on July 24th.
Yeah, 4 days into camp.
4 days into camp, right? It is funny, though, and I won't say the names, but I remember back in Oakland where, you know, a couple days into and it happens every year, right? Whether it's mini camp or training camp, you know, this all pro everything, and then you wake up, you're like, oh, he's on the team anymore? Like, what happened to those great 36 hours, you know?
Oh, yeah. It happens, man. At one point in my college career, I was a spring all-star and did nothing when the season came around. So
hey, but you need practice players, right? You need good practice players.
Exactly.
It was funny today, though, where you and I kind of had that moment on the field where I got overly excited. I will admit, I got a little too fired up because I thought we were going to see some onside kick work. And you're like, dude, in all the time I've covered the league, I've never seen that on day 4 of training camp. But I will say, in my defense, the way that the team was lining up, and Carlson with kind of his short drop, it did make it seem like we were going to get some onside kick action, but ultimately we did not.
Yeah, you're not wrong. It did, and you even had me convinced for a second, and I don't think there's any way to display to you guys just how excited Eddie actually was for that. And I'm sitting there thinking, we're 4 days into camp. I have never seen a coaching staff practice onside kicks this early. So I would have been shocked if it happened. But yeah, it just ended up being normal kickoff return.
But speaking of Carlson, though, we did kind of get our first, I want to say, extended look at what he did. I mean, poor A.J. Cole has been a ghost this first 4 days of camp. I know he hangs out on that far field, and I assume he's getting his work in, but we don't see a whole lot of him. But we did get Carlson kind of in that live period. We had the crowd noise pumped in. Ends the session on, I believe, it's a 58-yarder is what our guy Q said.
Yeah.
And looking good, right? Obviously not looking perfect. I don't think anyone's expecting perfection on July 24th. But I think if you're a fan of this team and you just want to check the boxes, right? We talk about that. Carlson's checking them.
Yeah, the leg is still there.
Yeah, still there.
He can still kick it. He's still cash money, Carlson. Don't send the panic button out there or anything. The guy still does his thing. I love the fact that they incorporated the music and the fan noise back into it today. Adds that interesting element into things. Because it's been so quiet. I noted when I was talking to Q the other day on the radio, as I was talking to him, I realized, I'm like, wait, there has been no music out there. It's weird being at a practice with no music. But pumping it in at specific times to try and create that distraction, I think was awesome.
And we've talked about, really throughout the entirety of camp, we're going to learn a little bit more about what a Josh McDaniels practice looks like, what a Dave Ziegler kind of, practice looks like. And I think we're getting a better idea of that. Now, I think it's important that we say we're, 4 days in, 3.5 days in, whatever it is. But we are starting to kind of understand the cadence a little bit of kind of the method behind the madness, so to speak. And so I think as we get closer into camp, and really once the pads come on next week, I think we're going to have a much better idea of what to expect throughout the duration of the year.
Yeah, and I think things are going to change, as we go deeper into camp. Because this is a new coaching staff. This is their first time here running through a training camp as a coaching staff of the Las Vegas Raiders. Wow, I haven't done that in a while.
Dollar in the jar.
Yeah, I haven't done that in a while, man. But this is their first, go around with this, and I think we're going to see that kind of continue to develop as they install more of their offense and defense, and they really start to get a handle on it. McDaniels noted that they're doing more of the fundamentals and really concentrating on that and communication. The communication aspect is never going to go away. Fundamentals will always be there in individual drill, but more so in the team aspect of things. We're seeing a lot of these guys, run their routes and their concepts on air. That's going to go away more and more as we get deeper into practice.
And to your point, too, we talk about, this first year of a staff and the adjustments. And Dave Ziegler has told us on several occasions, he goes, look, we are always reevaluating the process, right? He's like, we're not a group of guys that we're going to wait till the end of the season to say, hey, in hindsight, we should have done this a little bit different. He's like, we're a day of, let's recap the day. How can we get better in this day? And so I think, to your point, it will be interesting as we get through camp. Do we see things that are a little bit different? Are there some tweaks to the schedule, tweaks to how many periods they run and all that kind of stuff? So it'll be exciting to see just that constant evolution of this program under McDaniels and DZ.
And I think that's the right way to do it. You see so many different, whether it's a normal, average Joe or whoever, people that are just, resistant to change and adapting. Being able to adapt is a massive thing, and learning from, hey, what does work, what doesn't work. They noted they're going to see how things go with the weather out here because it is hot in Vegas. Newsflash. So far it hasn't been too bad.
Yesterday
toasty.
was lovely. We recorded this on a Sunday, yesterday on our Saturday practice. Yeah. It was fantastic out there, and we had to deal with those heavy winds that last period of practice, and we got a little bit of rain. But in terms of what you're going to get for a late July day in Vegas, it was about as nice as you can hope for.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, they'll go indoors for the first time next week. I'm curious to see, what their thoughts are after going indoors, after being out of the elements and that. But yeah, it's been a nice balance of what they've done thus far. And again, I'm excited to see, how much the structure of practice changes once they do throw the pads on.
Yeah, another thing that we are both excited about, we were excited about, is we got a chance to sit down and talk to Anthony Averett today, a guy that comes in, and we were talking about it, and obviously you guys will play the interview in a sec, but very kind of Casey Hayward-esque energy, Casey Hayward-esque vibes, a guy who just seems very confident, kind of that quiet confidence of this is who I am. This is what my expectation is for the year. I'm going to go out and do my thing.
Yeah, just real chill guy. It was a good time chopping it up with him too. And, he's just an athlete. I mean, guy comes in with 4.3 speed, out on the edge there. EA did a nice little breakdown of him. If you haven't seen it, you got to check that out on the training camp show. This is a guy that I'm really high on. I haven't been shy about that at all. I think he's really going to push for that starting role. Once Trayvon's healthy, there's going to be a real healthy competition, for that spot.
Yeah, and I think healthy competition at the end of the day is the best thing possible for this team and really any team in the NFL. So I hope you guys enjoy our conversation with cornerback Anthony Averett.
SiriusXM puts you inside the Raiders training camp. Catch all the info on the team, plus your music, talk, comedy, and more. Subscribe now and get your first 3 months free. Be there with the Raiders.
Day one, baby.
Day one, I'm feeling good. Feel good out here.
We're ready to go, though. I can tell you that. We're definitely ready to go. Good day to be a Las Vegas Raider. Grass smell. Do something to me, I don't know.
First day, feel good. Back in black, Hey, can't complain.
All right, win on three. 1, 2, 3. Good.
We're hanging out here with Anthony Averett. And Anthony, sometimes the football gods and the content gods, they get together and they meet. And what happens is great because today, we're hanging out with Jesse Merrick, we're watching practice, and the play of the day belongs to you, sir, going foot for foot, stride for stride with Davante Adams. Beautiful pass breakup. Just walk me through that, man. That's a pretty nice way to get going early in camp.
Oh, yeah. Well, me and Davante, we pretty much definitely will have plenty of battles, and I was just one of them. So, I think he caught a pass later on down that down sideline. Similar play, too, as well. But, that play, he just went, inside. I just pretty much just made a play on the ball.
Yeah, to your point, Davante's going to get his, but it must be nice for you and the collection of DBs to be like, yo, this is a guy we're going to go toe-to-toe with, we're going to get better with, and he's going to be there just as a great resource for you guys all throughout camp.
Oh, yeah, definitely. He's definitely, it's kind of like, nail for nail, stone for stone type of thing. He's definitely going to get me better for sure. Definitely going to get him better as well. So I get hands-on, he's good with the feet. So we're just going to be battling all practice, all camp.
Yeah, like you said, good on good in that aspect for sure. I'm curious too, man. For you, being a free agent coming here, what was the biggest thing that stood out to you that made you, choose to want to be a Raider?
Oh, yeah, I definitely the opportunity. I saw the coaches that were here, I saw like the good defensive line that we have here for sure as well, and I knew, they probably needed a little help in the back end, I just want to be that guy to help, these guys.
Yeah, and also too, you had some, history with Ryan as well. Did you, what was your kind of take on him? Was he part of why wanting to come over?
Yeah, definitely. I know he had a good pitch with me, definitely bringing me in here. And, I faced a lot of these teams in this division. So once, faced these guys in the division last year, I'm pretty confident about facing them this year too as well.
We were talking about that on the elevator ride up here about kind of the scheduling oddity of last year where the Ravens played all 4 teams in the AFC West in the first 6 weeks of the regular season. So obviously we remember that game that we loved here Monday night. I don't know how great it was for you guys, but it was pretty wild to think that, hey, I did all that last year, and now I'm going to face those same dudes again, those same quarterbacks again in 2022.
Yeah, man, that just gives me, great confidence of just, now I get to play them twice a year, so, and just to be a part of this, organization, man, it's just a blessing, really.
Yeah, and last year, too, we were watching some of the cut-ups. EA, Eric Allen, he broke down some of your tape, was very complimentary of your work and showed some of those games against the Broncos, the Chiefs, And a lot of times for you last year, you started 14 games last year. You drew a lot of the top targets. What was that experience like for you? Because that was your first time really getting that kind of burn.
Oh, that experience, it was great, man. I definitely needed it, man, just getting that experience. And, for the next year, I feel like every year I got better, and I feel like this year is going to be that year. We'll get even more better, So I'm just excited to see, see what happens and, excited to make some plays out there for us.
It's one of those things, too, where we were talking about it kind of took you a minute to get your opportunity to play regularly. But I was going through the snap counts, man. Yeah. And once you got that opportunity, you weren't coming off the field, brother.
Yeah, I was definitely.
I'm looking, it's 100, 98, 99, 89, like, my goodness.
That's definitely always been a model for me, man. Once I, touch the field, man, hey, I'm not getting off. That was my goal. So
what was that like, though, initially going from, not playing a ton to all of a sudden hitting snap counts like that? Did it take some, all right, hey, I got to up the conditioning, or what was the deal?
Oh, definitely. Definitely the conditioning. You definitely got used to the rep counts. Got because, you come from, playing about 40 plays, then, now you double that now. So you definitely, get your legs, got to get in the cold tub.
that first game after you went nearly wire to wire, I mean, what does the body feel like the next morning there? Because like you said, to your point, it's just a different, your body's going to go and react in a different type of way.
Definitely. I mean, definitely, it plays a toll on you for sure. First season doing, playing a lot of football like that, that first game, the overtime, that was crazy here. And that was crazy here. So, I mean, everybody know how that went. And that was just, that was just a crazy atmosphere.
You probably slept real well that night, huh?
Very well.
Passed right out. Yeah, I can only imagine. And so now coming here, new defense with Patrick Graham. What's been your take on it thus far? What are some of the things that you like, and then maybe how your skill set fits into it?
Yeah, I feel like my skill set fits well with it. I mean, it's a little bit of everything, man. Zone, man, everything. Blitz, everything. So, I mean, that's pretty much what I wanted to do, and one of the reasons why I came here, too, as well. So, I think it's going to be a great opportunity for me.
I know we were mentioning Eric Allen's breakdown of you on the training camp special when we first got in here, but I think my biggest takeaway from watching EA, and one of the things that I love about EA is EA is a stud DB in his own right. So every time I hear him talk, I get to learn something, right? Like he's a great professor of football. But one thing that he was really complimentary out in terms of your game was that versatility, right? You're on the right side, you're on the left side, you're in the slot, you can do it all. I mean, how important is that for the modern DB, the DB in 2022, and we all know that the way the offenses are run now, how valuable is it that you are a guy that can move all around this defense?
Yeah, very valuable. I mean, it's nothing that I mean, DB is definitely one of those things like you just got to have on your team, and especially just a value player like me, I just feel like, you can put me anywhere, and especially in this league, 7-on-7 nowadays, so there's a lot more passing, especially in this division. It's a lot of passing. They're airing it out. So definitely, just great to have, happy to have the opportunity.
I mean, we talk about the division too, right? And you played the AFC West last year, but now you look up and all of a sudden the division's even better. You got Russell Wilson, you got Herbert's a year better, Derek's a year better. I mean, it must be crazy as a DB coming in to this situation. And I know you have the benefit of seeing him a year ago, but you're like, man, there are no off days on this schedule,
Nope,
man.
It's not. Every game feel like it's showtime, lights is on.
That's what you're looking for, though, right?
For sure, man.
Yeah, I mean, that's what
I'm
you sign
definitely
up
excited about it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, going week in, week out, going up against some of the top quarterbacks. I mean, that competition is going to be insane. Obviously, in your DB room, there's a handful of guys, a handful of new faces as well. Anybody in particular you really clicked with, or who's really jumped out off the tape to you, being out on the field with them?
Well, I'll say all of them. I like Rock, I like Trey, John, everyone. Everybody, even the younger guys, Meek. Everybody pretty much, man. We all in there grinding.
Yeah, I know you were a track guy in high school. Was it broad jump? I mean, not broad jump. Was the long jump was your thing?
Yeah.
Anybody can out jump you, or what? What's the deal?
Yeah, not a long jump, no. Yeah, that was something out. I was pretty good at that.
Yeah.
I jumped pretty far.
I know a lot of the media guys in the room, messing with Rock because he was a wrestler, and that guy's obviously
really?
jacked.
Yeah.
They were like, man, does anybody on the team beat you in a wrestling match? And he was real coy about it. He was like, I don't know, maybe, but at least you got to own up, man.
No.
If you got it, you got it.
If you know you got it, you got it.
It's funny too, where you look at this room, and to Jesse's point, a lot of new faces, but dudes have been here for a minute, right? And so I think you kind of that perfect balance. How valuable, or does it not matter as much since you guys are a little bit on an island, of having that chemistry with the other DBs?
Oh yeah, it's definitely. You definitely got to have that, and it starts in the meeting rooms. We got to get that camaraderie. A lot of new faces coming from different places. So once we get that camaraderie, we all together. It's just easier to communicate on the field.
Who's the dude in that room that makes you laugh the hardest?
That's a good question. I say John. He has a personality.
Yeah,
sure.
I had a feeling.
Definitely has personality. I like him though. He's a good guy for sure.
Another SEC guy too, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Exactly.
For sure.
And man, and speaking of the SEC, I mean the ties to Alabama. We were talking about it before. I missed you by 1 year. I used to work out there. For you, man, what was that experience like? And also playing on a guy like Coach Saban, who was also the DB coach there as well. So you're getting coached by one of the best guys to ever do it.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing like it. I mean, I feel like you're definitely learning from the best, and I feel like the SEC in general, I think you're playing with the best, in my opinion. The lights is always on every game, 100,000 people, fans, and it kind of prepares you for these type of moments, Vegas versus, Kansas City. I just LA. I mean, the Chargers, that last game, that 18th week.
Yeah, we did too.
I remember watching those type of games. I was watching that game myself. But like those type of atmospheres get you prepared for that.
We're so lucky here where Jesse and I and all the folks here, we've watched so much really good football, NFL football. But because of the way our schedule are, I haven't been to an SEC game. That's on my bucket list, man. I've never been to an SEC game. Did you have oh man, I'm in the SEC moment? Like this is like different kind of football when you're in college. What was it?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think the first time I played LSU. It was my first start. First start that year playing at LSU, So it was there. It was in LSU, right in Death Valley. atmosphere. I mean, you got NFL guys. You had like Odell Beckham on the sideline. It was like Tyrann Matthew. It was just like a different atmosphere, something just different. It was cool, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, like, we're lucky here with the Legion. That place gets jumping. You saw it last year firsthand. But there's just something, I feel just like DNA different playing in the SEC. You know what I mean?
Man. Yeah, it's different. Yeah, they take football seriously, for sure.
Yeah, Bryant-Denny on a Saturday, that place is jumping, man. I mean, there's few places like it, especially, you get a chance to play in the Iron Bowl and something like that. I mean, that is, I'll never forget it. For you, like, for me, I would leave there, my ears would be ringing for like a couple of days. Was that kind of similar experience for you?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, Legion, it's definitely crazy for sure. I mean, that overtime game, I feel like that speaks for itself.
Yeah.
Ravens, Raiders, last year. That was crazy, man.
Yeah, and hopefully we have a lot more of those moments here in 2022.
Sure.
Hopefully we get a lot of good moments that we're celebrating. I have a feeling we will, but it's going to be a blast. But we have a lot of work to do in between now and then. We're just a few days into camp, and it's been a lot of fun to catch up with you. I was saying, man, I feel like I haven't seen you in a minute. We got you for the free agency thing, but outside of that, you've been a ghost.
Yeah, man.
It's
know.
good though. Good ghost.
Man. Oh yeah, right. We're working, man. OTAs. Hey, now we're back for camp. Go see a lot of me, man.
Absolutely. Anthony Averett, man, we appreciate you, dude. Stay safe, stay healthy. Have a good camp, and we'll catch up with you soon, all right?
All right, thanks. Appreciate it.
The Raiders Training Camp Podcast is brought to you by SiriusXM. Subscribe to SiriusXM's Platinum Plan and get every NFL game, plus 24/7 NFL news, talk, and expert analysis. For more information, go to SiriusXM.com.
Eddie Paskal and Jesse Merrick back in the pod studio, and we just heard our conversation with Anthony Averett, and we were talking about it on the way in, very Casey Hayward-esque vibes, but I think you brought it up perfectly. I think that this is a guy, when all is said and done, when we look and we get closer to week one, this is a dude who's going to be pushing for serious playing time in 2022.
Yeah, I'd say so too. He got his first opportunity last year, started 14 games. Obviously, the Ravens got ravaged with injuries. It was wild. All of them happened really right before the season started. He stepped in and a lot of times had to draw the top receiver for that opposing team. And this is a guy that went from playing like 40 snaps a game to, you said, what was the number, like in the high 80s?
Yeah, that was like the lowest.
Yeah. So, that's impressive to come in, step in, and have a great opportunity and take advantage of it. I know Wink Martindale even said that he's a guy that has all-pro caliber talent. So, obviously didn't see that realized last year, but if he's able to do that here, that's a steal.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that, in today's version of the NFL, in 2022, you can just never have enough quality DBs, right? Like if you're one of those fans that, the Raiders signed 7 DBs, but they already have 300, you can never have enough, man. You simply cannot have enough quality guys who can lock up wide receivers, especially in this division, man. We talk about Herbert and Mahomes and Justin Herbert. It's just there are no shortage of weapons, and you got to have guys on the outside and in the slot too who can lock them down.
Yeah, all over. If teams in this division could go 6-7 wide, they would.
My gosh.
Oh my gosh. With the quarterbacks that are back there. So this is going to be a wide open passing attack league. So for sure, you need as much depth in the secondary as you can possibly have.
1,000%. And as we look ahead now to tomorrow's Monday, player off day. They will get back to work on Tuesday, which is great.
Yeah.
But Wednesday, Jesse Merrick, is the big day that we have all had circled on our calendars. The first day of pads and kind of like the unofficial second official start of camp, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Josh noted that too. He said, he's like, for the coaching staff, there's so many different like first days of camp, when all the players arrive, when the rookies are here, all the different stuff. So for him, that's one. You could tell today when he spoke that he cannot wait for pads to come on, just like all the rest of us. And he noted, look, that's when like the real evaluation starts. And so that's when we get an opportunity to watch some real football. We get to see some physicality. Obviously, they're not going to be tackling, to the ground. It's not going to be in that aspect. But they're going to take care of each other. But man, I can't wait, because that's where we really get an idea of the competitiveness and who's really going to stand out in the trenches, on offense and then on the defensive line. Those are the areas that I'm really going to be paying attention to.
Yeah, and candidly, too, right, where we look at the state of the Raiders in 2022 and our biggest questions, right, and I think we share a lot of the same questions as the fan base, right?
Yeah.
We want to see this offensive line in action, right? Do we believe that this offensive line is better than it was a year ago? Certainly, but at some point you want to see it, right? And you're not going to have, when we record on Wednesday, we're not going to have a perfect mosaic of what the offensive line is going to look like, but we're at least going to have some idea, because to your point, like the big boys, when they get in motion, like that's where you really learn about what they can do and what this group is going to be capable of.
Yeah, and the cool thing is we're going to see, every coach comes in and says, there's competition at every position, blah, 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 all this stuff. Yeah, there are plenty of positions on this team, though, where there's not that type of competition. On the offensive line, specifically on the right side, right guard, right tackle, there's going to be a lot of bodies rotating through there, and so it's going to be exciting to watch. look, how many people can say that they're excited for an offensive line battle? But I think this one's going to be intriguing just simply because of how important that right side of the offensive line is going to be for this team once the season does start.
And intriguing is the perfect word for it, because I think there's so many questions about that group in particular, about that side. Like, I think you're 100% right, where I think the expectation is we're going to see a lot of dudes rotated in. We're going to see a lot of different combinations of players, right? There's really not a lot that they would roll out there, really, on the offensive line in general. That would surprise me. So it'll be really interesting to watch, especially over this first, call it 3-4 days of practice. Like, who's getting those reps early, and who are they getting them next to?
Yeah, exactly. That's going to be a lot. That's going to be very telling, And another thing I can't wait for, one-on-one drills.
Yes.
Whether it's the receivers and DBs or the offensive defensive line. Like, that's my favorite part to watch about practice, because it's look, that is buckle your chin strap. The better man is going to win, And so those ones are just exciting times. It's as close as you can get to kind of like, the vibe of an Oklahoma drill. They don't do that anymore, and for good reason. But like, those is like when you get the juices flowing, like, oh, I just can't wait for that one.
All right, on our way out, give me one player you're excited to see in pads.
Man, honestly, I think one player that I'm really going to be paying attention to is Alex Leatherwood. Again, they talked about how he got a little bit lighter on his feet and everything like that, and he was saying that he was working on his hands. So to me, in pads, let's see how that development continues. Last year he was penalized a lot. Not a great year for him overall, but the development was there. He got those reps. For me, I want to see how different he looks this year compared to last year.
And I'll switch to the defensive side. Chandler Jones is the guy for me. I mean, we've heard so much about it, right, since he signed in free agency. We obviously know his resume. We know what he's capable of. But let's throw some pads on. Let's see what you got. I think that we're really excited about what he's going to look like in tandem with Max Crosby. But I want to see it a little bit, right? And we talk about, like, hey, the big fellas along both lines, you don't really get a great idea of where they're at until the pads come on. So Chandler Jones is going to be the guy for me.
Specifically, too, with him, Max and even Chandler talked about it a little bit when he had his media availability, his unorthodox, pass rushing style. I've never really, paid a ton. I've watched him, obviously. We all know who he is, but I haven't, really diagnosed and watched his, his abilities and how he does it. So I'm curious to see, just how unorthodox it really is and get a real view of it. I'm probably going to, now that I'm talking about it, I'm probably going to go home and watch some YouTube.
Yeah, there you go.
Nerd down on it a little bit, but also to see it, with my own eyes down on the practice field to really get a handle on, hey, just how unorthodox is it?
Yeah, and it'll be a lot of fun to watch, and to what we've talked about a lot. We're going to learn a ton after each of these practices.
Yeah.
I know we're only 4 days in, but I feel like we have a much better idea of what the Raiders are going to be in 2022. And we have so much more to go as we progress through camp. And the next time we talk is going to be after that first day of pads on Wednesday. So make sure that you subscribe, do all that stuff so you don't miss an episode of the Raiders Training Camp podcast. So a big thank you to Jesse, a big thank you to our guy Anthony Averett, Ray, and everyone back in control room who's making sure that our ship remains afloat, Jesse Merrick. And we will catch you guys next week after the first day of pads on the Raiders Training Camp podcast.
SiriusXM puts you inside the Raiders Training Camp. Catch all the info on the team, plus your music, talk, comedy, and more. Subscribe now and get your first 3 months free. Be there with the Raiders.